The requirement to implement the quality policy prompted the Economic Community of West African States to certify 5 products, namely cashew nuts, vegetable oil, cement, water and fish. This is the final of 4 stories examining important issues ahead of the meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and the US President Donald Trump at the G20 Leaders Summit on June 28-29 in Osaka, Japan. Democrats candidate in the run-up to the American presidential election scheduled for 2020 reacted after their very first debate on Wednesday night in Miami, Florida, an evening that focused on progressive politics, the issue of immigration and health. These are our top stories. Stay tuned for more details in this newscast. Products come from, how they are made, and their impact on the world around them. This means eco-credentials are playing an increasingly big role in consumers and businesses' decisions about what they buy. This is where FSC comes into play. FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council labels, deliver guarantees for consumers. But what does FSC certification mean for businesses? And why would a business consider becoming FSC certified?
Well, FSC is a global standard for certification of forest management. It satisfies the management of forests and also the products that come out of forests which have been sustainably managed and certified. So FSC stands out as the most trusted body worldwide in the certification of forests in the world. And it was created out of a realization that sustainable and responsible forest management is the way to go to save our forests and to use them for the social good and to respect the environment and also to derive economic benefits.
For businesses that manufacture or trade forest products, it is a sign to their consumers, customers, or other businesses that they care about the origin of their products and the impact on the world of making them as much as they do. It gives businesses credibility.
It's extremely important because Gabonese wood is very attractive in the world market. And in a number of countries in the world, the demand is there for wood which has been responsibly managed and wood which is legal, which complies with nationally and globally trusted standards. And FSC is one such standard. So it gives the Gabonese forest sector a lot of credibility if FSC as a certification standard is associated with the forest sector of Gabon. And that's exactly why we are happy to be associated with the FSC, or rather with the government of Gabon. Well, at the moment, we have only 3 companies which are certified in Gabon. But you know that there's a government policy to have certification for all players in the forest sector. And we are very hopeful that there's going to be a lot more compliance from the forest sector.
During his speech at the Rouget Gabon plant in Mevang in September 26, 2018, the president of Gabon, Ali Bongo Ondimba, announced that by 2022, all forest concessions in the country will have to be certified by the Forest Stewardship Council, the FSC. Any forest company not involved in this certification process will lose its license, President Ali Bongo Ondimba warned. Kenya's environmental court is blocking the construction of a $2 billion coal-fired power station in the Lamu archipelago, which has faced years of resistance from environmentalists and local communities.
In furtherance of our powers, under Section 129(3)(b) and C, we order the second respondent, should it still wish to pursue the construction and operation of the project, to undertake a fresh EIS study following the terms of reference already formulated in January 2016.
Tears and cries of joy as soon as the verdict was announced. A handful of Lamu residents were present in court, waiting for this court's decision.
That was we were so happy, by the way. We didn't think of that.
This is a big victory. It's the first victory as per our litigation process. We appreciate all those who supported this initiative. And this is a big day for Lamu people. It's a big day for Kenya. It's a big day for Africa. And it's a big day for the world. Because we must fight the coal power generation We can never ever allow it in our unique environment which God has.
The people of Lamu also want to save tourism, the main provider of wealth and jobs on this paradise archipelago. The government has 30 days to appeal this decision. If the project were to emerge, it would be the first coal-fired power plant in East Africa. Cashew nuts, vegetable oil, cement, water and fish are the 5 priority products that will be certified as part of the implementation of the quality policy of the Economic Community of West African States certification, which should facilitate the recognition by consumers in the region of safe and secure products and services that meet established standards. These standards should, on the one hand, help buyers, sellers, and stakeholders to agree on conformity assessment procedures. They would also help to limit delays and the multiplication of control operations in terms of testing or certification of products. For the representative of the Commission of the Economic Community of West African States responsible for the promotion of enterprises and private sector, this certification has been implemented to ensure that enterprises accommodate the product's quality, because it will benefit them not only by making them competitive in the market, but also by protecting consumers and the environment. The certification program, which is funded by the European Union, is implemented by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, as part of the Quality System Program in West Africa. The United Nations formulated last week an obligation to all political parties for the preservation of peace in Côte d'Ivoire. Everyone must redouble their efforts to ensure that the next presidential election is carried out peacefully and successfully for all the Ivorian people. A statement by the UN Secretary General for West Africa and Sahel, Mohamed Ibn Chambas, after an interview with President Alassane Ouattara. Election is a major step in the consolidation of democracy and development, he added insistently. A few months before the presidential election, the environment seems tense, according to many observers of political life. One would need to absolutely do the best of their ability to avoid the unfortunate events which occurred for over 10 years ago. Indeed, between 2002 and 2011, Ivory Coast has long been divided into 2 camps. In addition to the post-electoral crisis that led to the arrest of former President Laurent Gbagbo before he was transferred to the International Criminal Court, a crisis that had led to the death of 3,000 people. Weakened by terrorist threats, the country seems to be heading towards a new conflict in terms of positioning of one another. President Ouattara so far has been speaking of a mystery about his candidacy. He feels that he has the right to run again due to a change in the constitution in 2016. Another former president, Henry Konan Bédié, could also be on the starting line, without forgetting the possibility for a comeback onto the political arena of Laurent Gbagbo. If the political parties are already at work, one will have to wait for the leaders to decide, but above all, to decide in favor of peace. The Nigerian army said this Thursday they repelled an attack by the Islamic State organization in West Africa, ISWAP, against one of its bases, killing dozens of terrorists. The jihadists of the Islamic State organization in West Africa, on top of trucks and motorcycles, on Wednesday tried to take over the gunnery base in the state of Yobe, bordering Niger, the army spokesman said in a statement. The men waited until the terrorists approached enough to be attacked by weapons and opened fire on criminals, he added. The strategy led to the annihilation of dozens of terrorists, while many wounded managed to flee, according to the statement. The army was able to seize 5 trucks, weapons, and ammunition, spokesman Sagir Musa said, without specifying whether soldiers had been killed in the attack. The ISWAP, a former faction of the Boko Haram group, members between 3,500 and 5,000 men, according to estimates by the International Crisis Group Research Center. Unlike men who have remained loyal to Boko Haram's historic leader, Abubakar Sheko, who is attacking civilians, ISWAP jihadists are targeting the Nigerian military, many of whom have been killed in their assaults. The most likely outcome from the meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and U.S. counterpart Donald Trump at the G20 summit in Osaka, Japan this weekend is another truce on new tariffs to buy time for Beijing and Washington to negotiate a final deal to end their trade war, according to analysts. That is because the obstacles to an immediate deal are too high, while an escalation is in neither side's interest, the analyst said. The U.S. is willing to suspend the next round of tariffs on an additional $300 billion of Chinese imports while Beijing and Washington prepare to resume trade negotiations, Bloomberg reported Wednesday, citing people familiar with the matter. The U.S. will not accept any further conditions on tariffs as part of reopening negotiations, and no detailed trade deal is expected from the Leaders' Summit, a senior administration official said on Tuesday.
This guy on the stage, I feel like I probably ought to contribute to the generational conversation.
As part of Joe's generation,
I'm all for
part of Joe's generation, let me respond.
Before we move on from
10 Democrat candidates were for the first time gathered on a television set in Miami, Florida's largest city, a key state in the U.S. elections. Thursday's poster was brighter with the top two candidates in polls, former centrist Vice President Joe Biden and socialist Bernie Sanders, as well as two top-ranked candidates Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg among the top contenders.
I do not believe you are a racist, and I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country.
10 other contenders selected for the second debate.
I think there is no job that prepares you for the presidency better than mayor of New York City. It's a cauldron. It's pure intensity. And yeah, it's a very tough press corps. But you should walk through fire if you want to be president of the United States, and you're going to be ready to be commander-in-chief. So I look at it as it's a great preparation. It's a great grounding experience.
So, we just got to be talking about some of these things. We can't allow this debate to just be narrowly focused on a couple of people, or it's a disservice to the American people.
8 months before the first vote of the Democrats' primary, it is still too early to make a real prognosis, a political scientist at the University of Virginia points out. The first evening may be forgotten as soon as the big names come out on Thursday. To implement the quality policy prompted the Economic Community of West African States to certify 5 products, namely cashew nuts, vegetable oil, cement, water and fish. This is the final of 4 stories examining important issues ahead of the meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and the US President Donald Trump at the G20 Leaders Summit on June 28-29 in Osaka, Japan. Democrats candidate in the run-up to the American presidential election scheduled for 2020 reacted after their very first debate on Wednesday night in Miami, Florida, an evening that focused on progressive politics, the issue of immigration and health. That's all for our newscast today. Stay tuned on Gabon 24 for more news.